Hey folks, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. OpenVault has come out with their Broadband Insights report for the fourth quarter of 2023, and there are some interesting insights in there. Be right back to take a look. Thanks for joining. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So this is a report that OpenVault does on broadband usage. They do it once a quarter, and it's data that they gather from customers of their basically software as a service broadband usage service, broadband management. So this is based on their customer data, but they are seeing lots of this data, and obviously they're just looking at it aggregated, but it's good information. Now, you got to keep in mind as you're looking at this that, again, it's just their customers, number one. And then secondly, they started out in providing usage, broadband usage management, policy enforcement for DOCSIS, cable modem networks, because that's obviously where most of the broadband was at one point. And it's a little bit easier to do that because with DOCSIS, you're able to get IPDR, very accurate usage information. They can get fiber usage information now, but the majority of their customers, I believe, are still probably DOCSIS. So when we're looking at this, we need to keep that in mind, that this usage information is primarily probably DOCSIS at this point when you consider the percentage of users that have a cable modem connection versus a fiber connection. So just keep that in mind as we look through this. But this is always an interesting report. And they've been doing it now for quite a number of years. In fact, there's information in here taking us way back 5 years now. We can look at information kind of over that time and see how usage has changed. So I wanted to take a look at just a few of the slides that were in this report. By the way, I linked in the description of this email where you can go download this report from OpenVault. Just have to fill out some information and you can get this on your own. So I want to make sure you knew that. And then also, we are a partner of OpenVault. So just be aware that broadband usage management, and in this report, they also talk about proactive network maintenance, and that would be for DOCSIS networks, and also profile management application, or PMA, for DOCSIS 3.1 networks, improving capacity and improving resiliency and the reliability of those networks. We can help you with that. So I've got links to our pages there if you're interested in broadband usage management with our Bandwidth Commander product, or pre-equalization analyzer for PNM, and then the pre-equalization analyzer PMA if you want to do the DOCSIS 3.1 and maximize your capacity there. We've got links to that, so just check that out. But as I'm mentioning here, I wanted to talk about what they've found and how things have changed over time. And again, they do a really good job of taking all of the data that they're getting from the subscriber devices, all the data that they're seeing, and then kind of putting that together and coming up with some very interesting insights. So we see here just some key findings from their report. You see usage, the monthly average data consumed by subscribers in the fourth quarter of 2023 was 641 gigabytes. I might have to glance to the left here to make it to the bigger screen sometimes. Up 9.3% from the fourth quarter of 2022, when it was an average of 586.7 gigabytes. Then they've got categories of power user and extreme power user. They had power users, and then they realized, well, we want to continue to track that, but we need to go to extreme power users. Let's see, we've got power users, extreme power users. I thought there was a 1 terabyte. Maybe they don't care so much about 1 terabyte or more. Eventually, what I was saying, I think the last time I did this, I said they're probably going to have to come with something like like from the movie Spaceballs, something like ludicrous power users or something like that, as people start using more and more bandwidth. So they've got those two categories. So power users, the super power user category consuming 2 terabytes or more per month increased by 37% since the fourth quarter 2022. We'll see that they do still track 1 terabyte and over. I think that would be, I thought that was power users, but maybe they have another name for that. But anyway, 1 terabyte or more also increased quite a bit. This increased more percentage-wise, but you'll see when we get to the charts that that's still like 4% approximately of the users. So there's only 4% or so that are doing 2 terabytes, but that's growing, obviously. Extreme power users, the new category of extreme power users consuming 5 terabytes or more per month increased by 71% since the fourth quarter of 2022. I think I've got a chart on that, and I'm sure that would be similar, where It's like, wow, 71%, but it's going from a very small number of users to still a small number of users, but it's a big increase in percentage. This shows information on speed tiers in here, and we see here in the summary the percentage of subscribers on gigabit speed tiers grew 29% year over year, with 1/3 of the subscribers now provisioned for gigabit speeds. And again, interesting, because while they do have customers that are doing fiber, so that would there would be some fiber subscribers in there. This would also be a lot of cable subscribers that are now able to get 1 gig tiers or better, because cable has been increasing, obviously, the capacities of their plant. But we'll see when we look at average download kind of speeds. I think it's speeds or usage. We'll see that that's much lower, and I think that also takes into account the fact that we're looking at mostly cable operators here. New bandwidth usage insight. Commercial subscribers use 74% more upstream data than residential subscribers. I didn't take, they've got in here, if you want to download this, there's information on residential versus commercial usage for the first time, and I didn't look at those slides, but they're showing here again a summary that these commercial subscribers are using 74% more upstream data than residential subscribers. Not surprising. Obviously in commercial networks, you've got, at home you might have a few people doing, maybe somebody's doing Zoom at work if they're working from home, if they are, and then might have kids doing Zoom if they're doing school from home. But there's a lot less of that these days. More people have gone back to the office. Certainly kids are back at school, so there's a lot less of that. So there's a lot less upload now. It's still higher than it was prior to the pandemic because of things like what I'm doing here and other people that might be doing this at home. But it has leveled off. It's still higher, but it's not quite the spike that we saw earlier. And where at work, you're going to have more people, in offices doing Zoom calls and doing video streaming like I'm doing, and hosting servers. You could have web servers hosted or other kinds of servers that are going to be doing upstream traffic. So that's not surprising at all. For fourth quarter 2023 broadband usage key findings. So this is interesting. You see the data usage trends this is 2018, so a 5-year period here, through 2023, fourth quarter to fourth quarter, monthly average and median usage. So you can see it's a pretty straight trajectory here. This is interesting. I don't know why the median usage for 2019 dropped so much. I don't know if that's just a weird anomaly in their data or if something caused that. This is, kind of right prior to the pandemic, I guess. I don't know why the median usage would drop. Really, what that means, I believe, is, since it's a median, is that you're looking at quite a few low outliers in the data that would be bringing the median usage down. It's not straight average, but I don't know why. So you've got, for the most part, though, again, kind of a straight. Obviously, if you just draw a straight line, it kind of goes up the same here. And then also, if you look here, this is kind of the direction it's going to be going. And if you see here what I'm pointing to, if the current growth trajectory persists, household data usage will reach 700 gig by the close of 2024 and 1 terabyte by the end of 2028. So they're kind of projecting with this kind of a trend that's what we're going to be seeing for the next couple of years. So I thought that was interesting. Provision broadband speed tier trends. Fourth quarter 2019 to 2023, again, a 5-year period here. 5-year period here, I guess. So we've got, as you would expect, so we've got our 1 gig tier. And again, keeping in mind that primarily this has been cable operators, so that's not surprising. It would be, you'd be seeing similar kinds of things with fiber, although maybe not quite as significant on the number of plans that were available or being used over the last couple of years, because it's, gig's been easier for fiber operators to do, whereas it's been a little bit harder for broadband operators. One of the things about OpenVault, though, is a lot of their cable customers are the big MSOs. So those guys have been out front with higher, faster broadband speeds for a longer period of time. So again, you've got the 1 gig here back in fourth quarter 2019, and you're looking at 3%. Then 8%, 12%, up to 26% in 2022, and the end of last year, up to 33%. So you can see a significant increase in that. And as you see that, as would be expected, you see these kind of these lower speeds here. You've got less than 50 meg in this dark color here, and you see that obviously trending down. In some cases, that's because operators are just getting rid of those plans. They might raise their lowest service that was available. Maybe it was 50 meg back in what year is that again? 2019. And then, maybe later on here, they got rid of that and maybe their lowest speed was 100 or something like that. So that's part of it, is people changing to new plans, and then also maybe some plans being retired. And of course here, this would not just be people adopting these plans, but this would include cable operators who didn't have a gig plan in these years and then added them. So some people maybe added them here, this year, and you had more and more people adopting them at the same time. So, and then you've got your kind of your mid-level plans. Interesting that you see a shift on those as well. So you've got here 100 to 200 meg, staying pretty good percentage, really kind of your sweet spot, what most operators were offering there. And then here between 2021 and 2022, we had a big decline in that. And you see this other tier of 200 to 400 increasing. But again, I think that's just cable operators that are kind of changing their plans and bumping people up as they do that. So as they add a gig tier, they are probably upgrading some of their other customers that were on lower speed tiers and giving them more speed. Maybe the customer that was on 500 meg, they're saying, okay, now you have a gig. And the people that were on 100 meg, now you've got 300 or 500, that kind of thing. So I think that's what we're seeing there. But it makes sense that you're seeing these tiers change like this. And something else to keep in mind is as you add these higher speed plans, you're going to have more people adopting them if they're available. And that's going to impact your usage, which we'll see here, I think, in a slide coming up. It's going to increase the amount of bandwidth usage that you have from customers on those. And these are the tiers. This is not the usage, so we'll see that in a minute. This is power user consumption trends. So this has got your 2 terabyte, and here we're showing the 1 terabyte. So these are two types of power users, I guess, 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte. And so we see the 1 terabytes have increased quite a bit, going from 4% up to 21.6% over this 5-year period. And again, that was like a 15.2 percentage change. Yeah, something like that. And then we have our 2 terabyte guys. And again, that was a much higher percentage change, 30, 40%, whatever it was. But the number of subscribers really, it went up, but it's not a huge percentage of the overall total. So you've got 0.3% to 4.7%. That is a huge increase. But again, the number of subscribers doesn't seem like that high yet. So this is obviously increasing at a slower pace. But we certainly could expect that this line will start to maybe do the same thing as this line here in the future. So this could continue this direction, or as service providers start rolling out faster and faster plans with 2 gigs and higher. Again, as OpenVault starts maybe adding more fiber customers that are looking at their usage, then this line could certainly start to go in that direction as well. And this one, if they're looking between 1 terabyte and 2 terabytes, that might start to flatten out a little bit if this starts to go up. And here's your data usage by provision speed tier. So we were looking at the provision speed tiers, but now we're looking at data usage in those tiers. So we've got, again, this really low, these days, kind of slow speed of less than 50 megabits per second. And, let's see, so this is the data usage by those speeds. So at this tier, you've got 59% that are doing 0 to 100 gig, and you've got 19% that are doing 100 to 500. 12% are doing 500 gig to a terabyte, and then you've got 8% that are doing 1 to 2 terabytes, and the small percentage of 2% up here are doing greater than 2 terabytes. So something very interesting about that every operator needs to keep in mind is that some of the folks that have your lowest tiers are using a lot of data. So if you are not charging folks, if you're not charging folks or trying to give them incentive to upgrade to another plan, then you could be getting, people are not paying very much here and they're using a lot of your resources. So that's why it's always a good idea to have different kinds of packages that include different amounts of data transfer, so that as people, as these customers that are paying you very little money are using lots and lots of usage, it's a good idea to try to get them up to a package that better suits their needs, because you're in business to make money if you're a broadband operator. And you can't have all of your you can't be losing money on customers, basically. So that's just something to keep in mind. And obviously, you see as we go up here in the different tiers that you're going to have, again, as people kind of right size the plan that they buy with the usage that they're doing so that it kind of matches their usage. And they're going to have a better experience, hopefully, if they do that. Not run into issues where the network's congested because they're using more maybe than they're supposed to be getting. If the broadband operator is doing bandwidth usage management, for example, then you're going to see people right sizing, and you're going to have more people getting the higher price tiers because they're using more data. And as they do that, as they go into those higher tiers, it's easier to use more data. That's, again, another thing to keep in mind if you are a broadband operator, is as you start saying, hey, we're going to upgrade your plan, no additional fee, just be aware that you're going to, as you do that, you could have customers using a lot more data. And sometimes it's because they just go, wow, this is great. I was trying to keep track of my usage before, and now I have more. I can go ahead on a higher plan and use that. But it also could be just by default with applications like Netflix and others that are happy to eat as much as you will give them. So they will, on a slow plan, if they don't have much bandwidth on something like this, they will kind of ratchet down the quality. It's not that noticeable to the end user, but they'll kind of keep that in check. Whereas if they have lots of bandwidth, then they'll go ahead and use as much as they can, and that's going to be driving the usage numbers up. So just something to be aware of. But you see here, so again, we've got if we looked at this one, you can see that we've got more people here doing the 100 by 500, and that increases here, about the same here, reduces here and here because we got more people at these other tiers that are starting to do the 1 to 2 terabytes, and a few more doing the 2 terabytes. But you see the big increase here is in the 1 to 2 terabytes. That's making the difference and kind of pushing these numbers down. So again, as you have these plans offer higher speeds, you're going to have more usage from a lot of these customers, and that's what you're seeing in that slide there. And then finally, this is kind of their summary overall of what's happened in fourth quarter of 2023 as far as usage in general. So you see here just the average total usage. That would be upstream and downstream, 641 gigabytes average bandwidth usage. That was 600.9 gigabytes down, 40.05 gigabytes up. And again, a good portion of this may be the fact that these are cable operators that don't have symmetrical plans. So, they might have a gig down and maybe 50 meg up or 20 meg up or something like that. But obviously the other big part of it would be the fact that in general, upstream usage is going to be less than downstream usage. Now that's changed, like I said, it changed with the pandemic. It changed just due to the fact that there are more people doing streaming. There are more applications that would be using upstream data. So those two things combined, I'm not sure which is a bigger factor there, but not surprising ever to see a lot more downstream usage than upstream usage, which is why I've said, while a symmetrical plan is nice, and a fiber operator, for example, can advertise, hey, we've got symmetrical gig, whereas our cable competitor down the street only has a gig by, again, like I said, 50 megabits per second. That 50 megabits per second on the upstream may be perfectly fine for most people. It'd be nice to have more, 100, whatever, but in general, gig symmetrical is not needed because upstream is far less used by most customers. They are more interested in consuming stuff than broadcasting the stuff. So they are interested in, streaming 4K movies and all that kind of stuff that's going to drive the downstream traffic, not broadcasting those kinds of things. So, there's a little bit of upstream we all do if we're uploading pictures, uploading a video to Facebook, whatever, there's that, but it tends to be short-term bursts as opposed to, let's say, again, a long download of a high-quality, maybe 4K stream, something like that. And then you see your average megabits per second on the downstream, 508. And here you see this is, again, indicative of mostly cable operators at this point, 28 megabits per second average upstream. So this would be a lot higher, I think, if we were looking at certainly at fiber operators only. or a higher or closer 50-50 kind of thing with fiber operators and cable operators, this number would be higher. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at these numbers. So I always find this report to be interesting. They'll look at different aspects at various times. One thing that was interesting that they were looking at for a couple of reports in a row was the Affordable Connectivity Program. They were comparing what ACP users were doing compared to everybody else. And one of the really interesting tidbits that came out of that was ACP users were actually using more data in general when you looked at just them compared to everybody else. So that is something that, told us, and I think we knew this, that a lot of people that were using the ACP subsidy were not using it to get broadband. They were using it to upgrade their broadband. So they may have already had maybe a lower tier broadband, but they were getting a $30 per month subsidy. So they were able to take that and apply it to maybe a gig plan where before they were only doing 500, something like that. So that was one of the interesting things that they followed there for a couple of quarters. So obviously the ACP now, at least for the moment, being no longer available, they didn't look at it this time. But again, so they always have interesting information. And as I mentioned, they're a partner of ours. So anything that you see there as far as broadband usage data, and again, DOCSIS tools like proactive network maintenance and PMA, profile management application for DOCSIS 3.1, you can reach out to us. You see our phone number there, email address, and website. So be sure to check with us on those kinds of services. Thanks for joining today. If this was interesting, if you'd give me a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button and ring the bell, and you will be notified when I'm live. Appreciate it. See you next time. Bye-bye.